everyone, and welcome to the Counsellor and Coaches Book Club YouTube channel. Today, we're doing an interview with Gaye Poole regarding her new book, Edges of Me. Hi, Gaye.
Hello, really good to be here. Thank you.
Thank you ever so much for being here. I'm really grateful that you could join us today. I'm just hearing the rain hammer down outside the window, so thankfully we're in the dry because it sounds horrible out there, but there we go. Right, Gaye, without me blathering on too much, yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, the interesting bit for your clientele, I think, really, is that I originally, after realizing I wasn't a very good general nurse, I sort of ran from the responsibility. I thought psychiatric nursing will be far easier, surely. So I trained at the Maudsley Hospital in London as a psychiatric nurse. And then I'll tell you a little bit more about that because this is where the book comes from. I did a shortened course, as people do after general nursing, 18-month course, and found myself as a staff nurse in charge of a children's unit.
Okay.
Um, Not at all prepared to sort of carry the weight of that responsibility once again. And I felt that even now, I don't know whether I'd have enough skills to cope with that position. But it was many of the people that I met during my time as a psychiatric nurse that, understandably, I'm sure, like your clients, some people just stick with you, don't they? And you wonder about their life story, how it turned out. Um, and I've got like many such characters for many books now from these people. Um, but I didn't turn to writing then. I went traveling and then thought, gosh, what do I do? And then I came back and went to drama school. And because obviously I didn't have to, it didn't matter if nobody clapped, or, that was the worst thing that could happen. It wasn't life and death, and I wasn't scarring people mentally at all. So I thoroughly enjoyed, and again, it was very much like understanding people, understanding the characters. So I trained as an actor, and then over the years set up a theatre company with a fellow actor and started writing plays for Human Story Theatre, only about health and social care issues. For me, it's sort of like assuage the guilt, really, if you like, of leaving the caring profession. So that's how I've sort of come to date, really, to during lockdown when I wrote my first book. And I also qualified as a celebrant during that time as well.
Okay.
Yeah, again, just sort of really interested. Just always been, I think, partly being an only child, wanting people in my life,
Yeah.
just being really curious. What's under there? Who are they? And it's a very privileged position to be able to, either on paper, or obviously in your role, to be able to really get to understand somebody else. And so, through celebrancy, it's a lovely way to, tell a story through a marriage or a funeral. So yeah, so that's me up to date, really.
Wow, that sounds like a very busy and interesting life so far. Yeah.
Well, this is 66 years of it, so like, just there's quite a time.
Wow, fantastic. So, okay, let's get on to the book then. So, tell us about your book and how well, it sounds like the stories were there. So, how did you come to actually start writing it?
Well, it was in lockdown. As I say, I'd written lots of plays before, but and we had a bid in at the time to actually tour a piece about end of life, and so I was writing this piece about end of life, which is a particular interest of mine. And then everything was pulled. We actually got money to retour, to actually put on a domestic abuse play that I had written on the radio. So I started to think differently about, I started to have to learn writing for radio then. And then when that was put aside, this story had been with me um, since I was early 20s, when I met this young woman on a Saturday night. I was just covering on the emergency clinic, and at this point, the Maudsley Hospital was the only clinic to have a drop-in centre. And it was opposite the University College Hospital, for those people that know, these hospitals in London. And this young girl who was a physio student came across the road and got herself admitted to the emergency clinic. And that was my first meeting of her. She was about my age. She was clearly sort of struggling with her exams, She was slightly overweight. You know, she felt plainer than her fellow physios. They were all dolled up and going out for a Saturday night. She'd rung home, and her parents had got foster children by this time. And so I think she felt very alone and forced out. So she had made a cut on her arm and had got into the Maudsley. And from then on, I accompanied her to ECT, and supposedly that helped her, and she was discharged. But she was in there for some months, and I was on the ward where she was, and we did develop a friendship. And I thought, in any other circumstances, we would have probably been, good friends.
Mhm.
She had a great sense of humor, but I couldn't understand why she was in that situation. I didn't think she was that depressed or anything. And the term borderline personality disorder just wasn't around then. So in my mind, I've belatedly diagnosed her really, with borderline personality disorder. So, excuse me, the book sort of follows their friendship, um, over the years. Do you want me to say more about that, the content?
If you watch, yeah, if absolutely, if you want to.
Um, yes, I mean, they're both, and Jenny, the psychiatric nurse, is based only a tiny little bit on me. She's a very different character, but they're both searching for an identity, both searching for love and a path in life. And they meet again, sort of
That
like,
looks like my dog
hello.
joining.
Oh, my dog will join in a minute. And they're just searching for, both of them a path in life. And yes, I think it begins to sort of get a little bit darker, shall we say, when Claire, who's the physio student, and she goes on to be qualified, um, has obviously many, as people will know about borderline personality, sort of many unstable relationships in her life. Um, Leans more and more on Jenny as a friend, and has lots of secrets. There's lots of secrets in the book, and lots of things come out later. But in leaning on her, she wants to become her really, and it becomes quite an obsessive relationship.
Um,
Um, so that's where the twists and turns are really. But I wanted people to really sort of, question, like, that whole mental health continuum really, because Jenny's on it as well. I mean, Jenny has her own mental health issues. She has bulimia for a period of time. She's in not very good relationships. So they're both finding their way, picking their way through life. And yeah, it's an exploration really of mental health, of intense female friendship, um, and sometimes where you hold things in that sort of like liminal space, where's and how does that sort of like cross over really? Um, so yeah, I'm not very good at elevator pitches, where you have to sum things up.
That's okay. That's
Oh, I'm
okay.
glad I had 400 pages to tell that. So like, oh, that was all right. That was better.
So, well, there we go. What was it like for you actually writing that story then? Start because, like you said, you've had that since you were in your 20s. So, yeah, how was the writing process for you?
Um, well, I think I trained as what's called a method actor, at East 15. And to be a method actor, you have to know your characters in depth. If you're going on stage with a handbag as a character, you have to know that what would be in that character's handbag, whether they'd have Vicks Sinex spray or what perfume, that sort of thing. So I was quite used to exploring, the characters in that depth, and that's how I approached it and wanted to start, finding out more about this fictitious Claire, because I had certain things in my head that I remembered from her, but exploring her and also making up a different Jenny, a different me. And then I think, I'm sure many of the writers that you've spoken to, they do. I know it sounds daft, but I think sometimes when you allow yourself to just let them talk to each other,
Yes.
um, things happen,
Mhm.
and things get thrown up. And there were quite a few things in Claire's life that just happened to sort of like enter the ether. And I thought, oh, of course, Claire would do that. oh, Claire would say that. And I think it feels like, many people do. Sometimes you feel it's coincidence, don't you? And sometimes other people think it's fate, that these are things have been thrown around you or whatever. But yeah, if you tune into whatever, I think it's a really interesting process to be in. Yeah.
Interesting what you said there, actually, because I was speaking to somebody the other day, and they said they just ended a series of books actually based around the same characters. And obviously, some characters come and some characters have gone, but there was a main core of characters, and they were quite sad once it come to an end because they put those characters to bed. Their life story was done; it was over, and they felt
Yeah.
like they kind of lost friends. Or
Yeah, yeah, and I think unless you kill them off, they are probably are going to linger with you. So, yeah, I won't say whether I've killed mine off or not, but I totally understand that.
So, how long did it take you to write the book then? From like, okay, I'm going to actually write this to it's finished. Here's the manuscript.
Um, I really honestly can't remember. It felt like ages and no time at all. I would say probably 9 months or so. And I was really lucky, and I'd advise, other writers this as well, and would be writers, to have a writing mentor. I went
Oh,
on
okay.
lots and lots of courses, online courses, because of Zoom. And I've been lucky actually. I had, just in my interest, obviously, with script writing, I'd done a British Film Institute screenwriting course. I'd been on an Arvon, wonderful sort of week of writing retreat. But I had a mentor, and I paid for this mentor, but she went beyond really. And I think if you've got somebody that can sort of like a counselor,
Yeah.
open up that brain and, have a good look, shine a light in there, and sort of like mix it up a bit. And she seemed to sort of be able to see what was in there, what I wanted to say, and interrogate it in a very sort of like rigorous way, which made me think, oh right, I now need to do this and this. And also I think, sometimes we forget that we have so much subtext in our life,
Mhm.
and we're writing sort of a linear story. And just to be reminded, but other things will happen and take them, and but that although you can go on that journey and that's real, you need to remember what's informing your story. And for me, she was very good at putting me back on track, because I could quite easily, written another 100 chapters, just um but yes, I'd say a writing mentor is invaluable, or just lots of good close friends that can, you trust their opinion for them to tear it apart. Um, I happen to have a son who went to Durham to do English, and he very rigorously sort of like took it apart for me. So that was really useful as well. Um, but yeah, I mean, I found the whole process, I can't wait to, to get back and, to write again. And I think it's just it's finding that time, isn't it? Allowing yourself amongst everything else. Um, but yeah, because before, when I, used to write scripts, I mean, we set ourselves a deadline for theatre. Um, we'd booked the tour. I did pieces about dementia, domestic abuse, loneliness and suicide, all the happy subjects. Um, but it would be set, and I'd think, I've got to write this now by this time. Um, and I think that's really useful for people to have like a cut-off point. Otherwise, I think, especially, I'm not a perfectionist, but you want it to be as good as you can get it. But I think you've got to know a time when, okay, this is all right to give over now to other people to scrutinize.
Yeah.
I think that's the difficult bit as well, knowing
Yeah.
when and
Yeah.
who to, as
So
well.
did you have like like an alpha reader? Was that like your son then, and then like a beta readers as they call it? So that yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I had a few of those,
yeah,
and um, but it's extraordinary. I mean, even though my son, and I knew he wouldn't let me like get it out there unless it was okay. Um, it was, you know, it's been a surprise for friends to read it, and you know, other people that don't know me so well to comment, and I think, oh, and I think that's the wondrous thing as well when people that don't know you particularly can really understand where you're coming from with it, you know, with your characters, and it's, you know, it's lovely to have that sort of, you know, interface with people in a different
Yeah.
way, I think.
Yeah. And when you are actually writing, are you somebody that sets yourself a time of day, or is it just when the mood takes you, or
No, I love the whole idea. Some people do that have done the artist journey do this sort of morning pages thing, don't they? Where
yes.
they, you know, write like a rusty faucet, like releasing water, and write in the morning. I did that for. I'm so undisciplined, like, you know. And then I think, oh no, the dog needs a what? No, I won't. I'll maybe do it tomorrow morning, or like, no, I need my muesli now, so I can't possibly do that. Like, you know. So no, I've got no. Just when I can squirrel away some time. I love it. My husband's a climber, and he, you know, regularly goes away climbing. And that I think, oh, right, okay, don't have to think, you know, of him saying, fancy a cup, or and no distractions, you know, like this is me and the dog, and I can just get on. Um, but and I think sometimes it comes to you, you know, on a I love train journeys. And I think lots of writers say that. They're like journeying.
Yes.
And I like, you know, I've got a dog like you. I think sometimes when you're on a dog walk, you know, it's lovely, isn't it?
Oh,
To
fantastic. Yeah. It's I think that's how I personally manage any stress or problems. I just go on a dog walk. We've got some lovely field. Well, you know where I live actually, because you lived very
yeah.
close to me at one point. Yeah, there's some lovely fields out the back here where I just take the dogs out there, walk along the river. Not a care in the world. It's lovely.
And I'm sure, do you do that re your clients as well? Is that time to sort of reflect and
Yeah, it is. And often it's when I'll have an idea or inspiration for something, or an idea of how I might work with somebody with something, or I'll think, oh, this might link with that. So it's that time when you're not trying to force it, where the ideas tend to flow.
yeah, and I don't think people allow themselves enough. I mean, you know, I'm past master at this. I cram my life. I think we need that space. I mean, like I'm sure you know to like, you know, you know, of course you do to give yourself space between clients to, you know, but
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, the rest other people don't do that. Do you know? We think, how do they ever process what's going on in their mind? And you
Yeah,
know,
do you know it's really funny you say that, because I know most therapists do the the therapeutic hour, which is 15 minutes, 10-minute break, another client. And I did that many years ago, but I do not work like that anymore. I just can't. I have a minimum of half an hour. I do an hour session, and then I have a minimum of half an hour before I see the next one. And
I
that's just how I've worked for years now, because it gives me more time.
well, it's funny. I do still do quite a lot because I love it. Simulated. You know, I'm an actor for
Yeah.
medical students and the training and things, and the GP training when they with them, you know, they put so much into their housekeeping, they're taking care, and I think I'm so pleased because how can you have all this, you know, emotional stuff and you know, without time to sort of reorder that and you know yeah just so and I think very much with writing as well it's because you want well if you're writing the sort of stuff I mean, I'm not escapist fantasy I don't think I'm not interested in reading that either I'm afraid but I like grit I like
Yes.
true grit I like the you know a context around it of life really um but if you are writing about that I mean you know you're going to want to go there to those places so you're going to want to give yourself time to you know sort of sort that out as well.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right. That is something we kind of have lost in our way of living nowadays. We don't take time, or people don't take time to uh, just unwind and I remember reading something. I can't remember where I was reading. It wasn't that long ago, and it's an idea that I've come across several times in various different books and lectures and things like that, where actually we are less productive because we push ourselves so hard nowadays, and actually that downtime is where we do get the inspiration for stuff. Hmm.
exactly, and so many other cultures do it better than
Yes, they
us.
do. Yeah.
You know, we you know, we really don't allow ourselves to do that at all.
No, we
No.
don't. It's interesting. I remember can't remember who I was reading. No, it'll come to me. But I always remember the paragraph, and it was just about the different culture of the UK compared to Europe and America. and how we kind of had a choice to become more American, more European, and actually our culture went more American. So we fill our time with more stuff. We work harder and we work longer hours. And yeah, it's not always healthy.
And interestingly, the very reason I left your area where you are and moved up to North Wales is because, well, the house prices were cheaper. That was the reason why we
It,
wanted to go.
it is expensive around here. That's true.
We wanted to go mortgage free so we could have more time.
Yeah, absolutely.
No.
Yeah.
And and I love, I'm now in the middle of, like, green velvet hills all around me. It's beautiful. And yeah, I'm no, daily I'm grateful for, like, sort of being in this environment, and realizing how lucky I am to, my mind to sort of, like, be able to float around, now a little bit more than, that sort of, like,
And that's important for you, isn't it, as well? Because that allows you that time to be creative and to have
yeah,
inspiration.
yeah, definitely, definitely.
So just coming away from the inspiration creative side of it slightly, what was the publishing journey like for you?
Um, my mentor said, did I want a career in this, or was this a one-off book? And I said I wanted a career in it, and so she suggested that I try for literary agents first. I'm quite impatient, so when I've got quite a few no's, I thought, no, I'm going to just get a publisher. And so I started to write to publishers, and I just happened to see somebody else's book that was published by Cranthorpe Milner, which is my book, and thought I'll find out a little bit more about them, and actually contacted a writer that you've interviewed, which is how we've been introduced, Lisa
Okay.
Jenner,
Yeah,
The Wrong
Lisa. Yeah,
Story.
yeah.
Brilliant book, brilliant book. And she said, no, they're good. I've had this experience. Because I was offered a contract with another publisher, and my mentor, advised me not to go with that one. So um, the journey itself, I think I was a little bit disappointed, to be truthful, about the edit,
Okay.
because I think everybody, the friends that I've known that are newly published authors, have felt that very challenging
Yes.
at time, and I actually was really looking forward to, some flabby bits in my book, being like, and probably very lazily of me to deliver flabby bits, but I just thought I didn't quite know what to do with them. And I, they will see if people read it, your followers. I feel there's lots that still could be tightened up.
Oh,
Um, interestingly.
oh, that is interesting because often it's the other way around.
No, I was ready for more, more sort of criticism, really. Um, but and I think that's probably the pretender in me. I mean, I remember when I qualified as an actor, I had to do a one-woman show so that people, when they came and saw me, if they stayed for the duration of the show and they clapped, I thought, oh, okay, that was me doing this on my own.
Okay.
And I needed that validation. And the same, I think, with the book. I thought, if you really are serious about me as a writer, I want you to really challenge me. And so I think I'd quite like to be more challenged next time. Um, Certainly, it was wonderful because I'm really bad at grammar and punctuation, and they were brilliant at just being really kind with me and sorting all that out, and all the layout, and I'm going to show you, because I just, like, need to show you my book cover.
Yeah.
I don't know whether you can see that, and
Yeah, I
obviously,
can see that. Yeah. I'll
um,
I'll actually put a picture of it up on screen.
yeah, lovely. Well, this is really, really important to me, and I think, part of the publishing journey, I was really pleased that they allowed me to use my own designer, because it's a friend of mine, Mary Jane Outsell, who is an internationally renowned portrait artist, and she's got a portrait up in the National Gallery. And I wanted to be able to explain to her what I wanted. I needed to be in control of that bit. And so she gave me this wonderful image, and I wanted edges of me, around the face, because that's, for me, is, precisely what it is signaling, really, both. So, and also I was very pleased. I They I trained with Jo Brand as a psychiatric nurse.
Oh, wow.
Um,
Okay.
and we weren't friends or anything, although she did come to my parties, and I think I may have kissed her boyfriend once or twice, but I have confessed that to her. Um, but she very kindly read it and pre-publishing, and has written some lovely things. I've got one here somewhere actually, which I will, if you'll indulge me. Um, Captures the essence of the time and pinpoints the tricky areas where the professional and personal sit uneasily in the field of mental health care. A fascinating, warm, absorbing story, and I think that's what Lisa Jenner got as well. That it is, it is about that continuum really, and the difficult interface. Um, so for the publishers, I think they did understand what I wanted to achieve with it, and also with my plays, I was adamant because we were dealing with huge issues that I wasn't an expert on. That I needed. We always had Q&As afterwards with the experts, whether they were experts by experience or profession. Like with dementia, we partnered with Alzheimer's UK, that sort of thing. And for this book, I would have loved to have done more research with people with borderline personality disorder. Um, Not many people wanted to talk to me, understandably, but I have got an afterword in the book that was written somebody by a Samaritan actually who but works in this area, and the Samaritans regularly used to come along to our plays because they were all quite hard hitting. So I think it's really important for me. I want to write books that are about these issues that make people think, all these things, it isn't them and us, it's all of us sort of thing. And then if they've been affected by anything, there's this expert at the back.
Mhm.
But that's me that young girl absolving with herself of responsibility is still here, and with helplines and that sort of thing. So that's, when I talked about having a career in it, I'd love to write more novels about, particularly about mental health issues, but about social, care, that sort of thing. So yeah, I'd say the publishing journey. Um, I think for me, I didn't want to self-publish. I wanted to try and get myself over that parapet
Yeah.
again, like the actor believing in myself, think, oh right, okay, yes, I've seen you. I wanted to be seen like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I can understand that. You want to resolve the imposter syndrome almost.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
oh, she's still here, but like, yeah.
Yeah. Do you know what? I don't. I've never interviewed a writer who says they don't have it. To be honest, I think that's I think most writers feel like that, and regardless of how many books or novels they published as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, oh, that's comforting to hear. Yeah,
I'm just going to go back to your cover design because it is quite striking. And I remember the first time I saw it because I was like, oh, oh. So I had it. Yeah. So actually, it's
yeah,
interesting you said it was designed by an artist, a round artist, because it is a very good cover. Because rarely would I have that reaction to a cover, and I
exactly.
actually remember having it. So yes, yeah,
That's really good. And I think, I'm hoping because, obviously there's so many books, we all have got so many books by bedside that we haven't got around to reading yet. And I'm sure you, like me, probably, like, please don't tell me anymore. I've got too many, they're coming at us all the time. I think, oh, I want to read that and that and that. And I needed something else, to make it stand out. I mean, I hope it will appeal to people interested in mental health issues. This is why I'm on here. But to women's book clubs, men, whoever. But yeah, as a thing of beauty to have
yeah,
sat there.
yeah. No, absolutely, and it does. It definitely does stand out. Yeah, because I remember seeing the cover for the first time.
And
But
also the image, obviously, when you look at it, is like two faces in one, which
yes,
is,
yeah.
obviously precisely what it's meant to
Yeah.
convey.
But it makes you think. That's what the cover does. It makes you think because it makes you look at it and you have to, you don't just look at it and go, I know instantly know what that is. You have to look at it and then go, and that was my double reaction to it. And that was what I really liked.
Good, good. Oh, that's good.
So you've kind of answered my next question, but I'm going to kind of ask it anyway. So you've mentioned about wanting to get back to writing and making and doing more books. So any ideas for what the next one might be around?
Yeah, I mean, I've started it, and again, no time really to sort of like pursue it, but I hope to soon. Um, and it's called Flat 73. because I did a play entitled Flat 73, and I felt that the characters, those characters, like some of the books you were mentioning from other authors, they are still living. I haven't killed those off. I want to return to them. And it was a play about loneliness and the Samaritans, and that's when we first um, developed a relationship with the Samaritans. And I just got so interested in all that they do. Um, and I think particularly the characters are a widow whose family have emigrated to Australia. So there's a young care leaver who's a single parent, with nobody. She's lonely too. And there's a young man with learning disabilities. I've run a theatre with kids with and without learning disabilities, and it's another particular interest of mine. And he's obviously lonely and isolated, all living in the same block of flats, and they're united in a sense of they all speak to Laura, this particular Samaritan, and she obviously has her own story as well, which brings the three of them together by the end. So, yeah, I'm
But
really looking
so
forward to
yeah,
getting it
fantastic.
out there.
Yeah. So oh, wow. So already in the process of
Yeah,
writing the next one. That's
yeah.
so. With and you've sort of touched on this as well, but again, I will ask the question: what advice would you give anybody that is looking to write a book, really? Because obviously, I've spoken to many authors, but I'm not an author myself. So yeah, what advice would you give?
Um, I'd say the same as when I first went to drama school. They sort of give you permission to be nosy. They said, like, just look at everybody on the tube and, like, come up with a sort of pen portrait backstory for them. And I think it's just giving yourself even more permission to be nosy and curious about people, and just having that notebook with you, or your voice memo, whatever, all the time. And I think some of those strands will come together. I don't, for me, my approach has never been, I'm going to sit down and write a story about so and so. It's, a chance remark, or so I think collecting chance remarks, collecting characters, and then again, and brewing. I think, like you have your pot of tea to sort of stew. I think it needs, things need to ferment a bit, and takes longer than you think to sort of like pull it all together. But I'd say the courses, I think, are invaluable, and I think the course is sometimes invaluable to, like, hear and join a writers group and hear other people's writing, um, and just realizing that your own style is different to theirs, appreciating theirs, but not comparisons. I think that they can be odious, can't they? But um, in strengthening your own identity as a writer, I think that's really useful. Um, there's loads of online courses which are great. Um, I think having post-it notes with you at all times
Really? Yeah.
is wonderful to, and to order things. I mean, I think lots of writers, they have lining paper all around their house, don't they? With, like, um, and I've just got bits of paper that are really disorganized. So I have found, like, notes on the computer now. I'm a technical sort of, like, dinosaur, but that has helped sort things out. So I think finding, um, finding obviously your identity, your voice, um, and finding your way of working, and a system through it, because often I think, I used to write 1 hour plays,
Yeah.
and that was easy. When you're writing a novel, when you just don't have a beginning, middle, and end. There's all those other bits in between the beginning and the middle and the end. Goodness me! And, like, you've now sent somebody this way, and, like, you've got to remember, did they come back? So I think, yeah, I think the a way of keeping hold of all your strands,
Yeah.
finding your system early is really, really important,
And
because
I think yeah, that I mean, because a lot of people say, but everybody has different systems as well. Because I know some people that just keep it all in their head, and I'm like, how do you remember when? And then I just hold it in my head. But I know other people who literally have databases that they upload character details into, and then they put where that character is, where they are in their life, and what's happening. Yeah.
exactly, exactly. And I think, and you've got to remember then where your database is, and it's just like there's a lot to be on top of. So I think, yeah, somebody that's got a systematic brain, I envy, really. So that's good. but yeah, I just say, um, and I don't know, for me, I there's nothing like a pen and a paper.
Hmm.
Love a really nice rollable pen, so it just like flows, and you think, oh, it's all flowing out of me now, you know.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and sunshine coming through your window, not rain. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just interesting that because I always prefer a real book as well. I'm not somebody that likes a Kindle. I mean, my office, if you looked around, it is full of books. My house is full of books. And I now have actually started renting another room, which is being filled up with
Uh,
books. Yeah, because I just love the feel of a real book. I'm not. My wife keeps trying to convince me to buy a Kindle, and I'm like, I just like a book. This is the problem.
yeah, no, there's nothing like, and I'm guilty of turning down pages.
Hmm.
I love going back to why did I turn that page down? Oh, yes. Yeah, no, and when I finish a book, I like to go back to the ones I've turned down. You can't do that with a Kindle.
No, and I like to, depending on what the book is as well. I'm somebody that it's kind of a book is interactive in my head because you can make notes in it, you can write in the margin, especially doing with what I do with like the book club and everything. Some of them I will make notes in and write, little things because especially I don't know if you can hear that. There's a motorbike going past my office.
Wow, it didn't sound like that at
Oh,
all.
no, it did
Gosh.
not. No, I've got this sound deadening microphone, but that was yeah. Anyway,
Oh, oh.
yeah, so I'm somebody who likes to interact with the book. I like to write in it, make notes in it. So yeah, I like a proper book. I'm not for a Kindle.
Who's your favourite author then? What are you reading at the moment? Big build up for this.
It is. This is my work one. So this is what I'm currently reading at the moment. Why has nobody told me this before? So
Oh, okay.
quite nice. And science fiction. So I'm actually a big science fiction fan. So my favorite author is probably Terry Pratchett.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I'm just reading something here. So I've read everything he's ever written apart from this last one that's called A Slip of the Keyboard. So I've just started that. So yes, that's what I'm reading.
I
Yeah.
have to say, I remember seeing him interviewed, like, the very end of his life, and
Yes.
he was just an amazing man,
He
wasn't he?
was. Yeah, he was an incredible man. Yeah, his mind. It's more. As much as I love his work, I think his mind fascinates me more on how he created that. Because he didn't
Yeah.
just create a story and characters; he created a world, which is incredible, really.
And then, it's the irony then of, like, for him, like, losing,
Mm,
that all those
yeah,
worlds.
yeah,
Uh, but
absolutely.
how wonderful during that time,
Yeah,
that he did was so,
yeah.
really, so many books, weren't there? Brilliant, brilliant.
And are you somebody? Are you reading anything at the moment, or are you somebody that when they write can't read?
Oh no, I'm constantly reading, and like I'm such a greedy reader. I just like hoover them all up, and only certain of them will stick with me.
Mhm.
And that they're all the hard hitting ones. At the moment, I'm reading The Wren by Anne Enright,
Oh, okay.
which is a really interesting, it's really interesting. I like, you know, I like grit, like Shuggy Bain, for example, that a lot of people know. And yeah, and I like a child voice. I do. I like the narrators. We've just read. Just on. Oh, well, All the Light We Cannot See. Anthony Durr. Another book of his. I can't remember, but again, he used a child's voice again. That really gets me somehow. The innocence of a child telling a story and the wonder of the world and all that sort of thing. I do love that, and I
Just
love beautiful writing.
now, what was the book I read that is told through the view of a child? It wasn't that. Okay, I didn't read it that. Sorry, I read so much that it's hard to remember the different. What was it? It's quite famous as well. You probably, if I describe it to you, the next door neighbour's dog dies, and the child wants to investigate.
Oh, not the young lad with Asperger's that was
That's it. Yes.
the theatre piece as well. Oh,
What's the title of the book?
went to see the piece on the theatre as well. It was really good.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, that.
Yeah. That. Yeah. What is the title of that book?
Curious Incident of a Dog in Nighttime.
That's it. Like, I knew it was. I had the mysterious incident of some, and I was like, "Is it the dog in the night time?" Or is it? Yes, that was the last one I read through a child's book, and I really enjoyed that. That was a
Yeah, no,
fantastic.
it was brilliant, and I love his writing. Love his writing. He's great. I think he's an isn't he Ox from Oxford?
Yes, I think so. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I thought I remember saying. Yeah, no, I'm with you there. Definitely, I love that one.
fantastic. Well, I think that kind of brings us to an end, Gay, for our interview. Thank you ever so much for joining me. It's been really good fun. I've really enjoyed it. I hope you.
Well, it was really easy to talk to you. Obviously, that's your skill, isn't it? So.
Well, yeah, kind of.
So you made it, because sometimes I did a radio interview yesterday, no, Friday, and it was fraught. So this has been lovely and relaxed and and warm. Thank you very much.
Well, give us one final plug for your book, and
Please read Edges of Me, and I'd really be interested in your opinions about, well, yeah, just about the mental health struggles of both of them and how they were conveyed. I'd be really fascinated. Thank you.
fantastic. Thank you ever so much for joining me, Gay. So that was Gaye Poole on her book, Edges of Me.